Welcome back to our continued study in the book of Acts. And we're covering a lot of history here and some of the activity that revolved around Paul, who had been now, at this point, held as a prisoner with a certain amount of privileges for 2 years in Caesarea, in presumably still in Herod's palace. Well, during the imprisonment in Caesarea, the Roman world moved on. I mean, 2 years is a long time to be cut off from the greater part of society, as Paul was. And the Roman world continued to develop and to change, and people moved from one position to another. And it's like Felix was replaced by Festus, who is now in charge of detaining Paul in semi-prison. The world did not remain static. Life went on. And it does around you and I. 1 year to another, we see vast changes taking place. And in his day, the same kind of thing was happening. There were developments and changes, and the days went on. And all these 2 years, Paul was detained. But suddenly, we had a quick change come as Porcius Festus arrived on the scene. Now, Porcius Festus, he became the fifth procurator of Judea from about 59 to 62 A.D. And he succeeded Antonius Felix. So Festus, Porcius Festus, was the fifth governor over Judea, and that was during the years 59 to 62 A.D. So we pick up in chapter 25, verse 1. In chapter 25, the 3 days after arriving in the province, Festus went up from Caesarea to Jerusalem, where the chief priests and the Jewish leaders appeared before him and presented him the charges against Paul. These Jews were on a campaign to get rid of Paul and to snuff out his life. They were sick and tired of him because he was disturbing them. He's literally leading people into a new way of life, a life of righteousness and truth and true salvation through Jesus Christ. And these Jews were just getting absolutely fed up, and they were chafing at the bit. They wanted Paul dealt with quickly, and now that they had a new procurator, they thought, well, let's bring up the case. Verse 3, they requested Festus as a favor to them to have Paul transferred to Jerusalem, for they were preparing an ambush to kill him along the way. Now that reminds me of those 40 guys 2 years before who swore they would not eat until Paul was dead. I don't think they died of starvation. I assure you they broke their oath. They requested Festus as a favor to them to have Paul transferred to Jerusalem, for they were preparing an ambush to kill him along the way. If we can't do it in the courts of law, we'll assassinate him. That was their attitude. That's what they had in mind. Festus answered, Paul is being held in Caesarea, and I am myself going back there soon. Let some of your leaders come with me, and if the man has done anything wrong, they can press charges against him there, down in Caesarea. So he just threw it back on the shoulders of the Jews. If you got something against this man, okay, come with me. We'll deal with it. And so in verse 6 of chapter 25, we pick it up. After spending 8 or 10 days with them, that's the people accusing Paul. Festus spent 8 days with them. Festus went down to Caesarea. And the next day he convened the court and ordered that Paul be brought before him. When Paul came in, the Jews who had come down from Jerusalem stood around him. I wonder if it was just a sheer attempt at intimidation, trying to scare Paul. Well, they found out Paul doesn't scare easily, and nor does he give up easily on anything. He doesn't bend to the will of men. He gave himself fully to God, and he was in God's hands and knew it, and God had spoken to him. God came down and told Paul, I'm going to send you to Rome. Well, suddenly a door was opening up that might cause that. Hear this again. After spending 8 days with them, that's his accusers, Festus went down to Caesarea. The next day he ordered the court and ordered Paul to be brought before him. When Paul came in, the Jews who had come down from Jerusalem stood around him. They brought many serious charges against Paul, but they could not prove them. Here we go. It just seems like a wheel in a wheel in a wheel. Round and round the thing goes. They're after Paul, but they can't catch him. They can't put anything onto him. They can't prove anything against him. Then Paul made his defense. Very simple. I have done nothing wrong against the Jewish law or against the temple or against Caesar. Period. I've done nothing of the sort. They brought no proof to any of the courts I've been in. They've been charging me. They don't have any proof. And I have been falsely accused, in other words. But Festus, currying the favor again of the Jews, Festus, verse 9, wishing to do the Jews a favor, said to Paul, are you willing to go up to Jerusalem and stand trial before me there on these charges? That was a loaded question. Are you willing, Paul, to go with me to Jerusalem, and all these people that are accusing them will get together and we'll face this thing down, and we'll finish it. One way or another, it's going to be finished. Paul answered, I am now standing in Caesar's court. In other words, in a Roman court in Caesarea, where I ought to be tried. I have not done any wrong to the Jews, as you yourself know very well, Paul said. If, however, I am guilty of doing anything deserving death, I do not refuse to die. But if the charges brought against me by these Jews are not true, no one has the right to hand me over to them. In other words, I'm a Roman citizen. You can't do that. You can't turn me over to the Jews. And then he said these history-changing words. I appeal to Caesar. No one has the right to hand me over to them, the Jews. I, as a Roman citizen, appeal to Caesar. Wow. After Festus had conferred with his council, he declared, you have appealed to Caesar. To Caesar you will go. A few days later, King Agrippa and Bernice. Now, King Agrippa, I've got some notes here about King Agrippa. Marcus Julius Agrippa. He lived he was born 27 years after Christ was born, and he lived to the year 100, and he was the son of Agrippa the First, a great-grandson of Herod the Great. In other words, the tail end of the Herodian line of rulers over the Jews. So here he turns up again. After a few days later, King Agrippa and Bernice arrived in Caesarea to pay their respects to Festus. Since they were spending many days there, Festus discussed Paul's case with the king. He said, there is a man here whom Felix left as a prisoner. When I went to Jerusalem, the chief priests and the elders of the Jews brought charges against him and asked that he be condemned. On their word? On what charges? Asked that they be condemned. And the Romans had the ability to just out of hand condemn somebody if they felt that was something they should do, either for the good of Rome or for the good of themselves. Anyway, the Jews wanted them to just simply condemn Paul. But on what charges? And with what proof? And Festus goes on to say, I told them that he is... I told them that it is not the Roman custom to hand over anyone before they face their accusers and have had opportunity to defend themselves against the charges. When they came here with me, I did not delay the case, but convened the court the next day and ordered the man to be brought in. When his accusers got up to speak, they did not charge him with any of the crimes I expected. Instead, they had some points of dispute with him about their own religion and about a dead man named Jesus whom Paul claimed was alive. I was at a loss how to investigate such matters. I guess he would be. So I asked if he'd be willing to go to Jerusalem and stand trial there on these charges. But when Paul made his appeal, he held over for the emperor's decision. I ordered him held over until I could send him to Caesar. Then Agrippa, the king of the Jews, then Agrippa said to Festus, I would like to hear this man myself. And Festus replied, tomorrow you will hear him. And now this was all happening 30 years after the death of the Lord Jesus Christ and his resurrection. Paul was being interrogated by anyone and everyone, by the Jews, seeking any kind of way to impugn his character, and they manufactured charges, and they hounded him, they hated him, for the simple reason that people were beginning to hear and receive the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ, the resurrected Christ. And the Jews were losing their following. In other words, they were jealous because Paul had truth, life-changing truth to share with the people, both Jews and Gentiles. And that's where we'll leave our study today and pick it up again on the next study. God bless you. Have a great day. Look forward to the next study with you.